was watching this, I was thinking of one of my favorite metaphors that I love to use is the journey of Israel out of bondage and slavery into their destiny of a promised land. And I want you all to know there's a land promised to you where milk and honey flow, and a place in which is your state of blessings in you. But as they entered into the wilderness part between, I found it fascinating that Miriam, who was the sister of Moses and Aaron, was the one that, because everybody was complaining at this time. They've been there 40 years in the story. I don't know how long they were there, but they were there a long time in this desolate desert as they've left one place and hadn't arrived at the other place. And I kind of feel we're in that same state. I think we've left somewhere. We know we've left, but I'm not sure we've totally arrived at where we want to arrive, into a land in which there is no illness, sickness, disease, aging, and whatever. But that land is promised to us. I want you to know that. That's a promise to you. People call it heaven. They call it many things, but it is a place of bliss. The Eastern people call it. It is the place that we shall not cry tears of sorrow any longer. But right now we're kind of in between that. We're in a state of wilderness out here. In fact, when I look at the world, spirit looks pretty barren to me. If I look at the political world, like, spirit, where are you? If I look into the medical world, I don't know what it's doing these days. I've been to 2 doctors this week. One doctor did nothing absolutely for me. The other, I went to the urgent care because I wanted to make sure what I had was not contagious, and it was only a sinus infection, but these days I wanted to know. But I left both places with more questions than I went in with. I did not really get what I call a good diagnosis, because I'm more than this body. Now, you hear me? I'm more than that body. I want somebody to feel my energy. I wanted somebody to say to me, what's going on with your life? What kind of stress are you going through? None of them mentioned that to me at all. It was take your blood pressure, do this, the same old routine that they do. So I left there kind of barren from what I went to get. So that was my desert experience. So you may be in a financial desert. You may be in a desert of lack of energy or strength. But here's what happened. Enough complaining in the desert, and they were complaining. Moses, did you bring us out here to die? We had it better in Egypt and slavery. At least they fed us. And all of a sudden, Moses' sister, Miriam, grabbed a tambourine in her hand and started dancing in the desert. And when she did, the women followed her with timbrels and dancing. The women led them out of the barren wilderness. And that's what this represented today, that these wonderful ladies were willing to get up here and to show us that there is a place of dance in the time of chaos and breakdown in our lives. I found a lot to say, so let's just see how this goes. C.S. Lewis, you that know of C.S. Lewis, he's a pretty well-known religious figure of the last century or so, says, the most valuable thing the Psalms do for me is to express the same delight in God which made David dance. Now, David is an interesting character, even though I'm not a real fan of Old Testament. There are some what I call spiritual plants. That means the true God planted some people in the midst of a time in which the true God had been forgotten for a lesser God. And we're talking about that on Wednesday. So if you want to understand that, come Wednesday. And we'll talk about the Most High God, who created a wonderful spiritual world that's already done, and a God that has tried to take over the material world, which isn't doing so good. And you're going to have to find out, who are you feeding? The Most High God or the God of this world? Because it is snuck in under the name of God in religion. And religion doesn't even know that they're addressing this lesser God where there is pain and suffering. And that's why there's more pain and more suffering going on, because we're feeding it. So this is what Gnosticism teaches you that's going to change everything and challenge you here at HeartLight. I'm going to tell you right now, it's graduation time. And I don't want us to become complacent. I don't want us to come to a place where we think this is it. This is the only belief there is. There's nothing beyond that. We are here to grow, to mature, for correction, and for teaching, and for spiritual maturity. And that means changes are going to happen along the way when we are at a level of consciousness to receive it, and apparently we are, or this would not have happened that I was led to take these Gnostic lessons. Because in it I found myself. And I found myself that I would probably be, if Gnosticism was what it was in the 1st and 2nd century, I'd probably be right in the middle of it. Because, anyway, that's Wednesday, so come and do that. But David was a plant, and the reason I'm saying David was a plant, that of all of the kings of Israel, he's the only one that danced. You can't find all of the 19 kings of the dynasty over Israel, none of them danced but David. What made David so different that it put a dance in his step? Because he did not connect with the God of this world or the God of the Old Testament, but he was connected to the God Most High. And he says that. So David was a spiritual plant for what was to come. Yeshua had not come yet in David's time, but he had a vision, and he saw when things were going to change from an old order to a new order. There wasn't going to be the God of 613 laws and abominations, but there was going to be the introduction of a high God of grace and mercy and love. Yeah. You get that? Yeah. He saw it. He saw it. He tasted of the world to come, or the age of grace. He didn't live in it, but he saw it, because he was visionary. And every one of you need to be and have a vision. What is it going to be like to you when the higher world of spirit shows up and swallows up the world of the material world that we live in? I could get to 100 things. I'm opening myself up here for a lot of things. But David was of the Most High El Elyon, who doesn't show up until hundreds of years into the future, when Mary is ready to bring forth the gnosis of God, or the mind of God, into the world. A world of law, a world of death. And I'm going to show you that Wednesday. I'm going to show you all the things the Old Testament God did that is not my God. You're going to have to decide, is this your God? One of the greatest questions that was asked by Jesus to the people of his time is, you do not know what you worship. I'm going to write a book and call it that. If I ever write another book, it'll be, you do not know what you worship. You worship a lesser God than the God I'm bringing to you. Jesus brought us a higher aspect of God than the God of the Old Testament. The God of the Old Testament was racist, sexist, and I can show you all kinds of things that does not match with the God of your heart and spirit, or you wouldn't be sitting here. Some of you had to get here because you sat and heard things about this God that did not resonate with you. when they started preaching sin and hell and all those kind of things. I know you had to sit there and say, this is just not working for me, because you carry the light of the Most High God in you. You brought it in. You are the disruption of the disruption. A world of disruption. And the light is going to disrupt this world, and the light is the light that is in you. So anyway, David danced before the Lord. I'll give you, since I'm on this David thing, because I love talking about David. I don't feel that I accidentally got the name David, because I do feel in some way I am possibly a reincarnation of David, of the scriptures. That's how closely I feel with it. And that happened to me back in the late 80s, 90s. I was up preaching, and I was using a scripture in the Bible. So I was glad when they said unto me, let us go to the house of the Lord. Well, we was preaching, go to church. But I had just read in Hebrews which house you are. And I thought, this is the house. And I knew that David had entered this house at some point. And when I get into that flow or that anointed place that I sometimes get into, that is David being channeled. Not this David, but my higher David that is in me. I channel the spirit of David. So David, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, David, he's still a king under law, he's still a king under Yahweh, but he gives praises to the Most High. In the time of Yahweh, he's praising the Most High, El Elyon, possessor of heaven and earth. And he's been in battle. He's hot, hasn't eaten, hasn't bathed, and he's walking down the road miserable. And all of a sudden, he hadn't eaten for three days, and he smells fresh baked bread. Remember those things? I used to remember smelling the Wonder Bread plant near where I lived early in the morning. Boy, what a nice smell of fresh baked bread. It didn't build bodies 12 ways, or 8 ways, whatever it is, but it smelled good anyway. And what was coming was Ahimelech, the high priest of the tabernacle, who had just made what's called the shewbread. You that know about the different furnitures, there's that candlestick, and there was the place of the shewbread. That is hallowed. You can't even imagine touching it without the law condemning you to death. But here's David meeting Ahimelech with this fresh, hallowed bread to be taken to the tabernacle that should have not in any way been touched. But the God of his heart, of Ahimelech's heart, said, give this to David to eat. In other words, he transcended the law, and God gave him grace. Now, the age of grace had not come yet. That does not come until Yeshua comes and fulfills all the law so that we can transition into the age of grace. But here David, 700 years or whatever it is before that, gets to taste of a world and age to come that had not come yet. Do you get that? Why can't we taste of an age that's on its way right now? An age of light and health and wholeness and goodness, without racism, without all the isms that divide us today, is already accomplished in the state of the spirit world, or the elevated place, which is translated heaven. My prayer is always, let it be done on earth just as it is in heaven. You don't have to conjure up something that you think you don't have. It's already been done for you. It is finished. So David tasted of a world to come. For in him, in his DNA and in his genetics, was the future of the mind of God made manifest in a human being. because he was of the tribe of Judah. The tribe of Judah was a very special tribe of all the tribes of Israel. In fact, the word Judah means praise. If you look it up in Hebrew, it's the tribe of praise. I know it's hard for me to talk this way. I'm not talking to Bible-oriented people, but do your best. Jump in. And it is through that tribe and bloodline that Yeshua receives from his mother. Who you are in the Jewish is through your mother. Not the man.
That's right.
Boy, we could get into some stuff here. And upon her came the Spirit of the Most High and conceived a human being that had no hue to it. I'm going to step down because we're getting serious now. Follow me. I want you to get this. I just got to talk what I'm going to talk about. I'm out of control here, so Spirit's in control. Did you get that? What was I saying? Help me out. There you go, because they said the humans, now the humans are the result of Yahweh of Old Testament, because they're a replicate. That's what it's called in Gnosticism. They are replicates of what God created. They're not what the true God created. They're replicates of a lesser order. They don't hold the original creation at all. They have been hewed down. I remembered, I've told you this before, but in art I just remember how we used to take a primary color like red in its most purest form, and then we mixed water with the red, and it became a paler shade of itself until eventually we had different hues of red. These bodies are a hewed down version of what was originally created to be. But somebody came along that the humans looked at. He looked like them. He had an identity. Everything looked like them, but there was something different about him they couldn't figure out. Why, that's old Yeshua, the son of Joseph and Mary. You know him. He's from Nazareth. You know, they wanted to make him like them, but they knew there was something different about him. And this is what they said. What manner of a man is this? Oh my God, the hue was missing. Somebody made it into the earth at the vibration and frequency of what the true God created. And that's what Yeshua represents. You at that level. Are you with me? Yes. Are you with me? Yes. Jesus is somebody who took the hue out. And that's what he did. Those years that are missing in the Bible, he was busy taking the hue out of himself. He went to Kashmir in India. He went around to all different things. They don't want you to know about that because they don't want you to know the way you can do it. So why understand the way he did it? Huh? So you that are throwing him out, I feel sorry for you because you're kind of stuck in Yahweh's world of sickness and disease. So if you choose to be there, so be it. We honor that. But you that are saying, no, I'm ready to get the hue out of myself. And how you're going to do that is to raise your frequency and your vibration and get back to being a pure being without a hue.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah.
Not what I'm supposed to be talking about today. Well, we had a lot of dancing today.
That was
I'm passionate about this because this is the message that has been given to me for many, many years, and I can't suppress it. I've got to get it out there. What manner of a man is this? He's a man without ego. Course in Miracles gives us the most wonderful first things that I ever read was, I don't need your praise, for I have no ego to receive it. But you need to praise because it centers you in love, and that is who you are. I never heard such words that touched me when I read that. I don't need your praise. You don't have to pump me up. You don't have to tell me how great I am. For I have no ego at all to receive that. But when you're in a state of praise and loving, then you're in the state of love, and that's who you are. You are love. So I'm going to keep on that until you get it. And I think each time you'll hear it, you'll get a little bit more out of it. It's important. Another thing about David before we leave him, is he the only one of the kings that danced so hard that he danced his clothes off. And his wife, Michal, was looking at him from a window. She was so ashamed of him. She looked out and he had danced all of his clothes off and he stood naked. Oh, what a wonderful metaphor. The clothes represented the outer garment of the self. The garment of his humanity. That's why we try to get you to move here a little bit. Shake it up. Shake that body up a little bit. Shake those hands a little bit. And dance. And dance. Dance is many things. Dance is a prayer. Dance can be your meditation. Dancing is being in the moment. Dance provides an escape from the world of stress. Dance provides a connection with others when you dance together. Dance promotes a healthy and active lifestyle. Dance is the ultimate therapy. Dancing can reverse signs of aging in the brain. The hippocampus is a small curved formation in the brain that plays an important role in the limbic system. The hippocampus is involved in the formation of new memories and also associated with learning and emotions. Dancing activates your hippocampus in the brain. Wow. In Psalms, again, this is David. I can't seem to get away from David. He must be around or in, wherever you are. You have turned my mourning into dancing, it says in Psalms 30:11, and have loosed me from the sackcloth and clothed me with gladness. Now, I most every morning, when I get up and I start my supplements, which is no easy thing, it's kind of a little time-consuming these days. Quit laughing. Those who've been in my kitchen know what I'm talking about. My altar of supplements. I have an altar that I worship. So while I'm doing all those things that I do, which is, as I get older, takes longer and longer to get it done, I play music and I dance. I dance to the refrigerator, I dance around the stove, I dance around the island, and I dance every morning.
Yes.
I'm going to invite you to start doing the same thing in the morning when you're doing your thing in the kitchen. Make sure you got some good music that you really like that turns you on, and dance around your kitchen from one thing to another. It can change your day.
Oh, yeah.
Jeremiah 31 says, then shall the young woman rejoice in the dance, and young men and old shall be merry. Women, you dance, make your partner happy. I guess that's what that means. I don't know. Dance. I know, don't go there. We could really go there, couldn't we? As we grow older, we suffer a decline in mental and physical fitness, which can be made worse by conditions of Alzheimer's disease. A new study published by the open access journal Frontiers in Human Neuroscience shows that older people who routinely partake in physical exercise can reverse the signs of aging in the brain, and dancing has the most profound effect. Exercise has the beneficial effect of slowing down or even counteracting age-related decline in mental and physical capacity. A study at the German Center of Neurodegenerative Diseases says, in this study we show that two different types of physical exercise, dancing and endurance training, both increase the area of the brain that declines age. In comparison, it is only dancing that leads to noticeable behavior changes in terms to improve balance.
Yes.
It's time to think about that. And it's not just because you're getting older, it's because the magnetic fields of the planet are changing. And you don't have the same centering anymore. Human resonance has changed, magnetic fields are changing and shifting, and your cells are connected to that. Anything that changes on the planet like that is changing in you. So you can have a sense of being off balance because you have to find a new center. And your center is not in religion, medical, educational, financial, or any other system that we have tied ourselves to is not going to continue to work for us any longer, because we're being called within to the center of our being. Stay centered through meditation, through contemplation. Center yourself. You have to take responsibility for yourself. There's nothing out there that's going to do it for you. You spend time, meditation. Now, and I'm closing with it. I'm going to say this. I still am not sure that our priorities are spiritually good. I think that our spiritual practices is down the list a little bit from the everyday distractions that the world is throwing at us, especially technology. You've got to learn to say no to technology, even if it's 5 minutes. And the Course says, if you'll just give me 5 minutes and a little willingness, the Holy Spirit will do a work in you. Now, TM is what Tim and I practice, which is transcendental meditation. They require 20 minutes twice a day. We try to get one in. It's just not easy because, oh my God, guess what's on TV? Oh my, we're on to a new show. We got to see that. Leave your phone outside. Learn to you don't have to take your phone everywhere you go. Leave it. Leave it when you go into a restaurant. It's going to be there when you get back. If anybody has a message, they'll give you a message and leave a number if it's important enough. You don't have to drag that phone around everywhere you go. Learn to detach yourself from these distractions. It's getting very concerning to me how much distraction goes on in this world. You know the old scripture, it's still good, Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first. What? And these other things shall be added to you. We got it the other way. I'm going to get all spiritual as soon as I win the lottery. Or I'm going to really give to HeartLight. My little old $5 is not going to matter. I'll wait till I win the lottery, and then I'm really going to bless HeartLight. And time all of you do that, there's a lot of $5 and $10 that we don't get because you're waiting for the big moment. I'm preaching to myself today. Now, fortunately, I'm in a situation that I do have more time. My time is more on spiritual things. I do reading, studying, research. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have someone in my life to take care of a lot of things so I can have that freedom. But that's what I do. That's what I do a lot of the time, as much as I can. Sometimes it just gets on overload, but that's been my life, has been study, research, learning. So I'm blessed in that way, that I've not had a secular job that I had to think about for so many hours. But a lot of you don't either, because a lot of you here are retired. A lot of you are retired. Not all of you, but a lot of you are retired. And therefore, you do have more control over how do I want to spend my energy today on a way that will benefit me toward my experience of awakening. Sometimes you have to learn to say no to family. Sometimes you have to say no to your significant other. And no to the children. I don't care how old they are. There's just a time to say, no, this is my time. And if you'll let me have this time, I'll be better. I'll be a better mom. I'll be a better wife or partner. I will be a better person. But you've got to let me have my time to be the best that I can be. If you keep taking my time and taking my energy, you will not know me at the level of a relationship that we could have together. So I'm saying that because the ego is trying to make you feel selfish, because you dare to put somebody first before you. Listen, you is what has been given you to take care of. The other stuff just happened. Mothers, there was a you before mothering. Before being a wife, or being a sister, for being anything, there was a you. And we have forgotten that part of ourselves that's before the label, before what we became in the world. I just feel Spirit wants me to give you this permission to reestablish a different divine order to your life. And I think this is happening because of the severity of the time we're living. I know things will eventually change, but right now we're still in breakdown mode. Whether it's our bodies, our families, the economy, whatever it is, it's in a breakdown mode. So this afternoon now, I want to say to these ladies that you represented exactly what Miriam did when she picked up that timbrel and started vibrating. Now I want you to imagine all of them out there grumbling. Oh my God, we have nothing to eat. I didn't know we was going to be out here in the desert this long. Oh, I think we was better off back in slavery because at least we was familiar with it. We've been there for 430 years. We kind of had that down. Slavery was really the one, what we were good at it. But even under being slaves under the Pharaoh, they had a hope, but the hope wasn't doing anything. So any people who has been under some kind of restraint or slavery or whatever, this is my appreciation for black spiritual and gospel music, because I know that they were always sending messages through song of hope that things were going to change someday. I know that. And I've talked to people who, African Americans who go around the world explaining this story of how these songs are very coded to one another, because it seemed like they didn't bother them as long as they were out in the cotton field singing. There was something different about where we use singing than talking. There's things you couldn't say, but you could sing it. And those spirituals was born out of the time of slavery and pain and sorrow. But they started singing things like, when this battle's over, we shall wear a crown. We shall wear a crown. Now, I find it hard to single certain people out in the word slavery, because there's different ways to be enslaved to something. People are slaves to their food, to their thinking, to many different things. We become addicted to it and enslaved to it. So we all, I don't care what your background or your culture is, we all know of some kind of slavery to something that we need to be free from. Dancing may be the answer, because it's as close to getting vibration to the biological, physical, mental part of yourself than anything can be. I hope some of this makes some sense to you. But I wanted to dedicate one Sunday a year to dancing, at least one, maybe more. And I thank you. I want to take this time, I know you're not gone yet, but I want to thank Lynn. She's been wonderful every Wednesday morning to come here and work with these ladies and with others, and exercise and dancing and yoga and bowl sounding. Some wonderful things go on at 10 o'clock there. We want to thank her so much. We're going to miss her a lot, and we're just glad for the time. And Ben, yes, he's very supportive to Lynn. He's very supportive to Lynn. Yes, always glad for people who have significant others that supports them. And I want to say that to all you men here that are married or have partnerships, that you've been so supportive to be with your wives and partners at this time. Oh, I need to take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
It's interesting because today everything was about dancing. And yesterday I went with a client. There is a place in down, they do it in different places. It's going to be in a Methodist church, also in South Tryon. And it's called Contra Dance. It's very interesting because it's a bunch of people and everybody dance. Mm-hmm. You know, it's super interesting, and they do them. I mean, it's like, I don't know, $7 or $9. The entrance is very to know people and to dance. Everybody will dance, and it's very, very, interesting, and
good.
Everybody bring the best.
Yes, and I think that it's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Keep things up. All right, let's take a moment.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment to absorb the message in the way that you heard it. What spoke to your heart? What didn't speak to you? Offer to put on the shelf of your higher self and not judge it right or wrong, good or bad. It just is. Maybe I don't understand it today, but maybe I will tomorrow or a week from now. Just whenever my consciousness is at a level to receive the teaching, I will receive it. Let this great message of movement and dance touch our hearts and our lives when we leave here. Because it's all about keep moving, keep moving. Keep those legs moving, keep those feet moving. There's just too much leg issues and feet issue. It seems like that's where it starts. Death kind of starts and goes up toward that first chakra. And you that are sitting there saying, and there's a voice in you, but I'm not a dancer. I can't dance. Everybody can dance. Don't you buy into that. Anybody can move. So I ask that this message take its place in your hearts and in your lives as you leave here today.